So I am Karen Stevenson. I didn't even put a slide in my deck about who I am. I forgot all about it. I was watching somebody else's session and I thought, oh, I should have done that. So I'll just talk. I'm with Lullabot. I'm the CTO at Lullabot, and I've been in the Drupal community for a really long time, since Drupal 6, which is, what is that, 12 years? I don't know. Maybe it's more than that even. I'm not even sure. But some period of time. And I have maintained all kinds of modules. And like a lot of other people, a lot of my modules are things that were problems I needed to solve for myself. So I just turned it into a module. And this is one of those. So Taxonomy Place, the idea behind it is, let's say, obviously, I'm assuming everybody knows what taxonomy is. I don't have to explain taxonomy, but a system of tagging things and collecting things, and a way that you can look at things that are tagged the same on a page in some way. So taxonomy is great. Drupal has a lot of really good taxonomy features out of the box, and it works really good for ordinary taxonomies. So the tricky thing is if you need a taxonomy that has geographic information. And what I ran into, and the reason for this to come into existence, is I had a site called ElderWeb, which I don't have anymore. But at the time, I created a lot of content, and it was international content. And then I would try to sort of tag it by the part of the world or the part of the country that it belonged to. And I did all kinds of different ways of trying to figure out how to create this geographic taxonomy back in the day. And including like a gigantic CSV file of all the possible places. And that did not work very well because I didn't have information about all those places. And so that was a kind of a pain in the butt. So anyway, this all came out of an attempt to figure out, like, how do you do a geographic taxonomy? And so I want each term to represent a location, and I want each of those terms then to have geographic information. So I just don't want just the name Illinois. I want to have a map of Illinois. I want to have a little description of Illinois, all that kind of thing. And then there were a bunch of problems. So one problem, obviously, is you could have a lot of locations, and a lot of those locations might not have any related content. So you might have all these, if you pre-create them, you might have all these empty terms. And then on top of that, locations have hierarchy. Country, city, state, think of it as a hierarchical list of content. And I want to automatically create things in a way that hierarchy is also automatically created. So Drupal has an automatic process for creating tags. If all you want is the name of the tag, that works super good. Like I could just create a regular Drupal tag thing that says, okay, let me create Illinois, only if I need Illinois. But it's not going to give Illinois any kind of a hierarchy. It's not going to give Illinois any geographic information. And we could have lots of duplications. You could have a situation very easily where somebody created a Fort Worth, where you spell out the word Fort for the city of Fort Worth. And then somebody else created Fort Worth where it was FT Worth. So there's lots of kinds of problems. So the automatic creation process doesn't work. And the manual creation process is a big problem because there's a lot of location information. It's going to be a really big, cumbersome project to create all the possible terms, especially if you don't even know if they're going to be used. So the problem I was trying to solve was create a geographic taxonomy and make it kind of automatic and kind of dynamic. So if I see that I need a particular geographic term, create it at the time I see that there's a need, at the time it's actually going to be used, and build it with its hierarchy and with all the geographic information loaded into it. So this is the module. This was a project in GitHub originally, and then I eventually moved it to Drupal.org as a regular module. This is, you can use a lot of other modules to go with this. The only one that you have to use with it is the address module, because the address module provides the glue that connects my node to my term. But you can also enhance it and do lots of fun things with it if you add some other modules. So you could use the geofield module and the geocoder module and the geofield map module. And those three together can be used to make a map of the location using the data that gets input on in the address field. And then there's another module called Wikipedia Client, which is one I created. And basically all it does is it just will query Wikipedia. So you could give it the word Chicago, and it will query the word Wikipedia and find the Wikipedia page for Chicago and bring it back and give you a link to that, or pull the text from that into your thing. And then another project, which isn't directly related to taxonomy tree, but when I get done building this hierarchical thing, I might want to build a page that represents the terms in a hierarchy. And there's a module called views tree that allows you to do that. So I got all done, got it all working, works fine, but it's kind of complicated to configure. And so I created a module called Taxonomy Place Example, and it's got a lot of pre-configuration in it. And if you wanted to just try this out, basically it's just a dump of configuration, and you could try it on an empty site or any site that doesn't already have the content names that I use here. But it creates a vocabulary called places, and that vocabulary has some fields on it. So each place term has a description. It has an address field. It has a short name and it has a sortable name. And the sortable name is something that I added to it. Again, because these names have a hierarchy, I don't want to sort by name. I want to sort with the hierarchy under, with taking into account the hierarchy. And you can do that in views and other things by doing a bunch of different joins, but by creating a sortable name for each term, you can do a simple sort and still keep things all in the right order. And so I will illustrate all this in a second here. And then the other thing that this example module does is it creates a place content node type. And all that's on that that's of interest really are two fields. So one is it needs an address field, and that address field is going to map to the address field on the vocabulary term. And then it needs an entity reference to the vocabulary. So basically it's going to have two links to the place vocabulary. The first one is the address field is just going to be used to figure out how to connect it to the second one. So the way that it works at a high level is in the configuration, I have a place where I can say which address field on the vocabulary term should be linked to which address field on the node content type, so that you can tell the program how to connect those two things. And this mutual address field then becomes the thing that Taxonomy Place uses to determine what term means what. The other thing that's nice about using an address field, so basically people, instead of selecting a place using an entity reference field, as you normally would, you're going to select a place using the address field. And the nice thing about that is, first of all, only valid places will be created. The address field already has all the logic in place to know what places are valid and what places are not valid. So that takes care of all these problems like Fort Worth and FD Worth. And the address field has a lot of new configuration. It used to be you could only use it to show a complete address with a street and a zip code and all that kind of stuff. And you can you now have the option of only using it for city, state, and country, and you can hide all the other fields if you just want to do something much simpler. And then what you do once you got all these fields set up, and again, the example module does all this automatically behind the scenes. All you have to do is install it. On the place content type node form, you hide the entity reference field because the user is not going to use that directly. The user, the editor, whoever's inputting the content, is going to use the address field to identify what location this piece of content is connected to. And then on the display, so that's on the form, so that's when you're editing. And then on the display, when you view it, we hide the address field because that was just a tool that's used to make the connection. What we actually want to do is show the link, the entity reference link back to the term. So that's the usual Drupal thing. It's just that the editor's not going to select that directly. It's going to happen via the address field. And then you can create a new place content node. You type in an address, and when you submit the form, what the module does is it goes out and it says, is there already a term out there with that matching address? And if it is, connect it. If it's not, create it, and then connect it. And so that's it. It's actually kind of simple, not too crazy, but it needed the glue code that's in this module so that it all works together. And then if you enable the Wikipedia Client module, you don't have to do any configuration or anything. If the module is out there, when your new terms are created, it will automatically try to pull a description from Wikipedia. If you don't want it to do that, you can leave the module, not use the module, or you can also hide the description and do something else with that information. And then if you add the geocoder, geofield map modules, what you can do is you can add a geofield to both types of content and configure the geofield to be automatically populated from the address field. And then use geofield map to say, display the geofield as a map. And so I have a demo site, and I'm going to show you what this looks like. Okay, and there's a link to the demo site if you go to the Taxonomy Place module. And so I just got a little explanation here. This is a demo site that I use for several different modules that I'm working on. So this is the place that explains how the places stuff works. And it explains kind of what I just said, that it's all created by the Taxonomy Place module. And then you can see this little, these are the terms that I've actually created, and they were automatically created by the content that I created. And this tree representation is where the views tree module comes in. So this is a view created using the views tree that shows the hierarchy of my taxonomy terms. And then I can select one of them, and I can go, and you can see that here's a description that was pulled out of Wikipedia, and a link to the Wikipedia page. Here's a map of the place that was created using the geofield map. And then here's my content that is linked to this place. And if I go look at the content, you can see what shows up on that. And what I see here is I could see that it's linked to that place, Bloomington, Illinois. There's other content on here, but it has nothing to do with this. If I edit it, and I scroll up, you can see here's my address field. I actually don't have a taxonomy. I don't see a taxonomy reference field. All I see is an address field. And the address field shows me the place that I chose. And if that field was empty, I could create a new one. I could actually create a new place just by updating this. And I'm going to go back again and show you what it looked like before. just as a reminder. Okay, so currently I've got United States, I've got the country of the United States, I've got the state of Illinois, and I've got 2 cities inside Illinois of Chicago and Bloomington. And if I go back to my piece of content and I change the address, I could pick a different place. I could say, instead of Bloomington, Illinois, I'm going to do Des Moines, Iowa. Iowa. And if I save that, let's see, now it's linked to Des Moines, Iowa. If I go to Des Moines, Iowa, I'll see I now have a Des Moines, Iowa term. Here's my Wikipedia description that was pulled. Here's my link to Wikipedia. I've got a map of Des Moines, Iowa. I didn't type in anything. All of this was automatically populated when I saved the module. And again, if I go back to my places page, you can see now I've got the proper hierarchy as well. So I've got Iowa showing up within the United States and Des Moines, Iowa showing up within Iowa. And that is basically it. I really don't need 50 minutes to talk about it, but that's how it works. I'm going to, let's see. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and show you how everything is configured. So here's my manage fields. So here's my vocabulary. I've got a places vocabulary, has an address field on it, has a geo field on it, has this short name and sortable name. And then on the form display, I have, yeah, I guess it's not on the form display. I'm trying to remember where I show the connection address. Okay, so here's the map. So I take the geo field and I'm displaying the geo field as a map. And then this is where I set up the configuration for the map itself. And that's what makes the map show up where the geo field is. On the form, I think I'm actually, no, I'm not hiding it. I thought I was. But anyway, so that's the way that's configured. And then if I go to the content type, I have the event set up as a content type. Oops, manage fields. So here's the content type, and it's got some other things on it. But down here, it's got this entity reference to places, and it has an address field. And if I edit the address field, I'll show you the other thing that makes this work nicely is there's some configuration in the address field. So I can say, what countries do I want to allow? And then down here for each, there's a whole bunch of different line items that can show up on the address field. And for each one, I have an option of saying that they're hidden, that they're optional, or that they're required. And so I'm hiding most of what's available. I'm hiding the first name, last name. I'm hiding the company, the address lines, the postal code, the sorting code, the neighborhood. Don't care about any of those things. And then I said that administrative area and locality are optional. And what that means is I could create a place that is only a country. I could create a place that is a state within the country, or I could do what I just did, which is create a city within the state, within the country. So I can go any of those 3 levels with this configuration. And then here's where geocode is set up. And in this case, I'm not geocoding on the content type. I'm doing my geocoding. If I go back, I'm doing my geocoding on the term. So let me go back to the term. And I keep forgetting where that line is. Address. There it is. Oh, it's the other one. It's on the geo field. There we go. So I have the geo field set up to geocode from an existing field, which is the address field. So what's happening behind the scenes is when I save the content that has the address field, Taxonomy Place is saying, okay, find me a vocabulary term that has the same address. So it's looking to the value of this taxonomy field. And if it finds a match, it says, okay, that's the one I'm looking for. It creates a connection. If it doesn't find a match, then it populates this. It automatically, GeoField module automatically populates the GeoField once the address field is populated. And then I've got some code that automatically populates the short name and the sortable name. And I was going to show what the short name and sortable name look like. So let me show that real quick. So list terms, and this is the one I just created. If I edit it, you see what it did. Short name is just the city or just the state or whatever is appropriate as a really short description. And then the sortable name is the one that automatically has the hierarchy in it. And with that sortable name, then I can create a view, I can create anything, and I can always be sure that everything's going to sort out correctly. And the code in the module does all that. So that is basically it. Oh, yeah, I am definitely using Olivero. Love Olivero. Beautiful, beautiful. So that's it, but I'm happy to answer questions. If anybody has any questions, I apologize that it's short, but I'm not sure what else to say about it. It's basically a glue module. There's a little bit of code, and if you set up the other modules in the right way, it all works together. Anybody have questions? Yes, if you go to, I'll show you. So here's the module, Taxonomy Place. And see, this is all kind of a description of what I just went through with you about how it's supposed to work. And down here, we've got a client, try out a demonstration. That try out a demonstration link is a Pantheon site that is not got a, and I get this thing, I've got to ping Pantheon. If you get this, you just have to refresh a couple times and it comes back. And I am not sure why I keep getting this, but if you refresh 2 or 3 times, it should come up.
Just wanted to jump in and point out that it's not displaying. I think you're showing something on your screen though.
Oh, I am. You're right. Let me find it here. You are correct. I am not displaying. Chrome tab. Where am I? Now I can't find it. Places. Okay. I'm going to go back. This is Texon. Here's the module. Now you can see, right? So this is the module. The description on the page explains all the things that I went through, more or less, about how this all works together. And over here in resources, you've got a little link that says try out a demonstration. And what I saw that you didn't see is that sometimes I get this 504 page when I go to the demonstration. And if you get the 504 page, you just have to refresh a couple times and it'll come up. But this takes you to the demo. So that's, like I said, it's a niche-y thing. Like sometimes you will never need, some people would never need such a thing, but if you need a geographic taxonomy, hopefully it's useful.
So I've had to use this one time before as a penalty for a short but brilliant presentation. I like to just ask a few questions because obviously when it goes up on YouTube, people don't have context. They they don't know what Drupal Chattanooga is if they're beginners. So just in general, how did you get into Drupal? How did you actually discover Drupal?
Yeah, probably the way a lot of other people did. I had a website. It was called ElderWeb. It was way back in the day. It was a PHP website that was using custom PHP code. And at some point I said, this is crazy. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I should just find a framework and build on it. And I did a lot of research, and I came across Drupal as the thing that appealed to me about Drupal was it gave me a lot of the framework that I wanted, but it still had a lot of flexibility. Like I wasn't just locked into it will do one thing and that's all it will do. I could make it into what I wanted to make it into. So that's why I liked it in the first place. So that's where I started. And actually my introduction to the Drupal community was I got in, and people who are new to Drupal probably don't know the whole story, but way back when we didn't have custom fields and custom content types. And that was a module called CCK. Yeah. And I did not create CCK. It had been created already. And, but the maintainer had moved on kind of. And so I came in and I thought, oh, this is really great. I thought I could use it a lot. And so I started making patches and fixing issues. And next thing I know, I got made a maintainer and started doing a lot of work on that. And that was kind of where I came into Drupal in the first place. So a lot of my experience with Drupal has been, I had a problem, I tried to fix it. And while I was fixing it, I thought, well, maybe I can create something other people can use.
So you end up becoming a contributor.
Yeah.
So, and then to follow that up, what is the one resource that you say elevated you in terms of, there's that one resource everyone has that, oh, this is what made me really, understand Drupal. What was yours?
That's a good question. I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, the old adage of the Drupal learning curve. There's everyone falls off the cliff, but somewhere on your way down, there's a net.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know. I came in the 4.6 day, and it was the switch from 4.6 to 4.7, which sounds like a small switch.
Yeah.
But it was actually a really big shift in the way that things were constructed, because 4.7 was where we started doing like Form API, and a lot of new things happened in Drupal 7. And so I came in right at that point, and I decided I'm not going to bother learning 4.6 because I think 4.7 is the future. Wasn't out yet. And one of the things that was new in 4.7 was CCK, and that was part of why I was all over it. Was like, okay, I'm gonna be ready when 4.7 comes out, and a lot of it was just a lot of trial and error. Like there's a certain amount of just getting in and okay, try and figure out how this works, and then try and figure out, now that I know how it works, how could I make it work different?
Yeah. Forums, Slack channels.
Yeah, well, back then it was IRC.
Yeah.
So it was mostly IRC. I did not end up finding forums that helpful. I didn't use them that much anyway. Okay. But a lot of it was IRC, and actually it was the issue queue, because I got involved on issues, and you start talking to people on the issue queue, and you get to know them, and they get to know you, and then I went to a DrupalCon, and then I met all the people that I had been talking to on all these issues, and like that was just like, oh, that was magic, right? Yeah.
It's really been and that's actually been the key to the Chattanooga community. Is we're all like a family. We help each other inside and outside of Drupal. If someone's moving, someone will offer help. It's really what brings everyone together. And last question is, what specific Drupal tools are a must for you. You get a new project, there's this set of tools that are the first things you install, and you don't even
Oh,
have to think about it, but
yeah.
they're current specific. It's not everyone uses them, but that's what you use.
Okay. So yeah, and a lot of my tools have moved into core. So my list keeps changing, with every new version of Drupal. But it's still path auto, meta tags. It used to be views, but views is in core now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think those are my first two for sure. Devel module, if you're doing any code, I don't know how you do it without Devel module. Honestly,
Yeah.
Drush, you got to know Drush. I mean, again, a site builder wouldn't need Drush.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do any code, you need Drush.
Yeah, and I think in general, just to understand even for a site builder, to understand the inner workings of Drupal, you kind of have to learn how to use Drush.
And maybe even just to stand up a site easily. Yeah.
Saves you a lot of trouble.
Right. I've become a big fan of Lando. I almost always use Lando now for local.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm guessing that might have something to do with the configurable databases and the options that are configurable.
Yep. Learned to do a lot of stuff with those Lando YAML files where you can set up all kinds of, you can either use scripts or you can use, set up the tools section, tooling section, where you can set up kind of essentially the same thing as scripts, right? You can just say, when I say Lando PHP unit, it runs my tests or whatever. Yeah.
Awesome. Finally, if your company does something you'd like to plug, or you do something that you'd like to plug, this is your space.
Sure. Well, we do Drupal development and design, and we also have a product called Tugboat, which is pretty cool. And I saw somebody on another thing talking about Simply Test Me, which is used in Tugboat. The idea of being able to spin up a Drupal site in a container and then use it. And we use Tugboat on our client projects, and it's available for other people to use as well. But we use it for create a pull request, spin up a Tugboat container that has the code that's in that PR. You can send clients the link and they can see what it looks like before you've ever pulled it in. It's good stuff.
Excellent. Any more questions from the chat?